So welcome everybody to this webinar. My name is Ethan. I'm in the marketing team here at Lux Creo. So we are really excited to have Dr. Ian Hutchinson here with us for our webinar, Direct Printed Active Memory Aligners in Daily Practice. Have we entered a new era of clinical control? And my favorite thing to say after that is spoiler alert, yes, we definitely have entered a new era. So we're going to have a brief introduction here. I promise it is actually very brief. Dr. Hutchinson is going to go ahead and do his webinar, and then stick around at the end for a Q&A session. That'll be a live Q&A. You can put your questions in the chat. I know some of you have pre-registered some of your questions. We'll go and get those answered as well. So again, today's webinar is about our flagship product, 4D Aligner. So, obviously what makes our 4D Aligner special, tons of things, but these three main key points are active memory, our ability to have these unique designs that are pushing treatment forward, and also same-day delivery as well. So with our active memory, unlike thermoplastic, where these aligners are kind of getting weaker over time, just due to normal wear. You put our aligners in our Rejuve kit or just in boiling water with a Polydent tablet, and it not only comes back to its original shape, but retains its original force as well. So our custom designs as well, as you can see here on the left, tons of opportunities to unlock different movements and treatment possibilities that uh, were once maybe even deemed impossible with traditional workflows. And then, of course, obviously, the ability to do this in-house and deliver it in the same day. So I'm not going to steal Dr. Hutchinson's thunder. I'll let him introduce himself. But as you can see, he has over 30 years of experience doing tons of incredible things in the industry. And again, throughout this webinar, you'll be able to write your questions in the Q&A or in the chat, and we'll do our best to get them answered at the end. So Dr. Hutchinson, going to go ahead and stop sharing, and you can go ahead and start sharing.
Okay, right, let's see. Play. So can you see that okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to minimize that. Okay, so thank you for the kind introduction. Like I said, I've been around quite a bit, shall we say, done various things. I've always been a bit hesitant with aligners, even though I've used them for a long time. And this is a sort of modification of what we did over at the European Aligner Congress in Brussels. Plenty of beautiful things to see in Brussels. But for me, it's all about the bike, shall we say. And when you say Brussels, I tend to think of, legends such as Wout van Aert, Tom Boonen, Remco, and of course Eddie Merckx, and the classics, Tour of Flanders, for example. We'll come back to Wout later because he is sort of relevant. Now, when we say the classics, this is the classic way I was doing aligners. So again, this is about 30 years ago, we were doing aligners. And it basically, we just used to do like what we used to call a Kesling setup, put a duplicate alginate, put the teeth into wax, move them, how much? Well, you used an acetate sheet and measured quarter, half a mil, take an impression, move it again. So it was very labor intensive, and he didn't really have too much control over what was going on. Okay. You could move, some control over how much you move the tooth, but using an acetate sheet and superimposing it over some control points, it wasn't brilliant. And then, of course, digital comes along. It certainly makes me more efficient because I can generate or fabricate my own aligners, which I have been doing for years, a lot quicker. Still got limits on the control. And the practice, although you're getting more patients through having aligners, the practice is still not flying. It's not at its full potential. And when I say about control, I don't like, how can I put it, big brothers, the big manufacturers watching. So do a lot of teaching and mentoring. And this was a guy who just came from years ago, said, "Can you help me?" I'm like, "Okay, what do you want?" "Well, I need to move the upper left lateral and the upper left central incisor, but I cannot touch the upper right central or lateral." So this is basically a patient who's a dental handicap, shall we say. So I want a baggy aligner. I want an aligner that doesn't touch those teeth. And the big manufacturers just go, "No." I'm like, "Well, you can." Um, and this is what we made. So the idea is we're just going to move the upper left lateral and central still using quite chunky attachments. And again, it's having that power of being able to zoom in when needed, looking at the detail and asking why. There's always a reason why. So she wanted a better result. And yes, I do a lot of restorative. So a big shout to Frank Spear. I used to go over to Arizona a lot. So she's having a bit of tidying up before restorative, but the root resorption, we didn't want to touch those teeth. So as Vince Kokich would say, a realistic, not idealistic by any means, but better. And then she went on to have the restorative work. So it's been this like water. You've got to be flexible, especially with the aligners. And I do find aligner patients a lot more demanding, um, even than lingual patients. So having the flexibility to duck and dive, shall we say, it's just been changed by this simple turnkey, and it is a turnkey operation. So all my wishes and wants, which I've made a list of over the last 30 years, have just been addressed by this. And he's a bit of a phobic, I don't really believe this. I've been burnt before. I've tried to use other systems and spent 3, 4 years getting very messy resin everywhere, and I just can't get it to work. So when it came across this, I wasn't too sure. So I gave them my STL file and I watched the guys produce my own retainer over for a 2 hour Zoom call. And okay, post it to me, popped it in. Yeah, I'll buy it. And since then, I haven't looked back. So what I'd like to do is just to go through some thoughts on the properties, things we can do, what we couldn't do before, and just really to give you some ideas and for you to take those ideas and make your own ideas because it's super simple with the system. It really is. So the whole range of things we can do. I mean, yes, we'll touch on the shape memory because that's probably the big game changer. Now, I'm not changing the biology. We're not changing that, but teeth do move. Faster may be the wrong word, but they certainly move speedier, possibly because you're getting maybe 80, 90. We're doing some research um, of the predicted tooth movement. So as with a classic aligner, you might only get 60, 70% of the predicted tooth movement per aligner. Well, here you're not. So again, the guys I sort of mentor are saying we need fewer refinements, treatments going faster. And then you look at all the other bonuses, shall we say, the flexibility, what you can do, and it is just, yeah, a game changer. So the shape memory, we know plastic is viscoelastic. It slowly stretches, especially if you've got those large attachments. And anyone who's made their own retainers or aligners pressure formed will appreciate you have to be careful when you remove it off the model, because if you just simply pull as hard as you can, when you fit it to the patient, it doesn't fit. It has been deformed. So all this constant in and out, it's stretching or deforming the plastic. Yes, it's on a very small level, but there's the aggregation of these errors that build up over the week. So how can we eliminate that? Well, maybe you could give the patient more frequent aligners. A new aligner, okay, there's been a move from every 2 weeks to every week. Well, why don't you give them a new aligner every day? Because if it's deformed, it's not delivering the force and the movement. So you're just treading water. But I mean, obviously, I dread the thought of giving them a new aligner every day because with the pressure form, I'll be there all day making them. And certainly the big manufacturers will love it because you can imagine the turnover, increase in their turnover will be huge. So there must be a different way. And that's when you start thinking about the shape memory effect, sort of like your heat activated superelastic nighttime wires, where you change hexagonal to cuboidal, marstenitic to austenitic. Well, could we use atoms changing shape from heat? So could we apply heat to the plastic to reset it? Could we put it in, for example, boiling water to reset it? And that is exactly what we can do with the Lux Creo resin. Now, we have to be careful because there are other products out there that have a similar change in the atomic structure of the particles, but their temperature is different. Now, the force we need to move the teeth is it when the resin is in the glassy phase. So we want that force to be at sort of body temperature. We don't want it to be in the rubbery phase because it's too weak and can take up permanent change in the shape, a bit like heat activated nighttime, because you can reprogram it. So that's why the Lux Creo is so great, because that temperature is above 60. So placing the aligner in very hot water, not only do the patients love it because in their mind, how do I clean my retainer? Well, I've brushed it, but it's not really clean. If I want to really sterilize something, I put it in boiling water. So then putting it in boiling water every night, they're thinking they're getting a super clean, sterile, disinfected aligner, but actually they're reprogramming it. So every day they're getting this new, inverted commas, aligner to deliver the appropriate force. So it's just amazing the difference what you can get. And this was just a sort of an experiment we did to show the difference in tightness. So where there's blue gel, it doesn't fit very well. And this is a pressure formed. When you direct print, you haven't got this stretching at the neck, the viscoelasticity, so to speak, because it's fitting so tight. Now, here's one where there's no color at the neck. And you're going to tell me, oh, it must be a tight fit. No, it's been deformed. I deliberately pulled it hard off the model. So when I press the pressure formed, you can see the blue gel goes in. So again, if you're making your own aligners, you appreciate these little subtleties. And that's why you've got to train your staff to remove the aligners carefully. So you can imagine if this was an actual patient using this in their mouth for a whole week, you're not going to have that aligner contacting the tooth at the gingival neck because it just doesn't touch it. It's been bent. So it's going to alter the forces. And what's the one force we all want? Torque. I know from lingual orthodontics, everyone's paranoid about torque, and you just sort of accept you don't really get it with aligners. Well, that's not quite true anymore. Because if we can print the aligner so it's so close to the tooth, we can also alter the thickness we print. So when you pressure form, if you use a 0.75, 0.8 mil blank, the thickness at the occlusal surface is 0.7, 0.8. But that plastic is then stretched over the model, so it becomes tissue thin, 0.3, 0.4, say. So it's really not going to deliver any force. With direct print aligners, you can actually do the opposite. You can make it 0.3 on the occlusal, so it's nice and comfortable and it doesn't interfere with the occlusal scheme, but make it thicker at the neck of the tooth to deliver more force. So now maybe we can start doing torque. Makes you wonder. So again, we're just starting to push the boat on it. We've gone from doing routine cases to more exciting cases. So this is a relapse case, and they just wanted the lower left lateral incisor torquing. So you know what sort of fixed retainer they had over the years. The wire unwinds, you lose torque. They don't want to have fixed appliances again. Can you really torque a tooth with a clear aligner? So I just happen to use 3Shape. Well, it's one of the programs I use for making my aligners. So this is the ortho analyzer comparing the two different models with 8 weeks between them. And I only used 4 aligners, 2-week intervals. And you can see the difference in that such a short period of time. Again, why 4 aligners and 2 weekly? Well, I'm reactivating, or the patient's reactivating the aligner every night. So why not try a 2 weekly change? So again, we're still exploring the possibilities. It is a total paradigm shift, these clear aligners. They're just rewriting the rules because we have to reconsider everything now. And then I was waiting and waiting for a scan. So this next case is just work in progress, shall we say. The dentist wants some torque, lingual root torque, applying to the canines. So we've got a much bigger tooth, need a lot more force. You know, when you pressure form, that height of that tooth, the length, is so big, the pressure form material is just going to be too thin, like tissue paper. Not so with the direct print. We made it 0.8. I mean, you could make it 1 millimeter if you wanted, but we just settled for 0.8. Again, I'm just saying this is work in progress. This is waiting for the data because we need to measure. So we used to use the torque, a TAD, TAD, not mini screws, but torque angulation device for measuring torque when we did lingual. You can actually feel the difference with your fingers when you print the models. I know I'm just asking you to believe me, shall we say. I know when we were in Korea learning how to do lingual, we used to have a whole wall of TV screens. You can't visualize things as well as you can use your hands. I know orthodontics seems to be moving away from being a profession of dexterity to digital. So what I'm saying is just carry on, don't lose the skill of using your hands. So this will be written up when we get the next one, next scan. And then it was like, well, what other tooth movement can be challenging? Well, tip, uprighting in the mesial distal. Again, a nice attachment to grab hold of the tooth, but you can imagine the apex of that tooth has got to move a long way through bone. It's going to take time. Crowns through air, super quick, super easy. Roots, apex through bone, long distance, hard work. This, it was just, again, a snapshot between the two. And I think it was about 6 weeks, if I remember correctly. Again, a very subtle change, but it's actually working. So we've got the 3rd of April 26, and can't quite see the bottom one, 15th of May 26 on there. So on the bottom one, you can see how it's uprighted a touch. Okay, it's subtle, but it's working. So I'm just trying to show you everything we're doing or experimenting with at the moment, because you just couldn't do it. And it must be down to this shape memory effect of reactivating the resin and having a thicker resin where you need it. Oh, yeah. Hate making retainers when dentists send me a model like this. You just know it's going to be super thin at the neck of those upper incisors. And this is just trying to show how the angulation and the height of the model. So I use just 3D Builder to try and trim the model to make it as low profile and the teeth as perpendicular as possible to maximize the thickness of the retainer pressure formed. Don't mess about with this anymore. Just use Lux Creo. Quick, simple, effective. So we've printed this model, and then we've pressure formed 1mm Essex C+, and trying to show, sorry, that was the Lux Creo one. And then I've cut the aligner, because if you look at the edge, there's like a little yellow and red. We have digital polishing. It smooths and thins the edge. So when we come to clean up later, it's so much quicker to polish the edge. But what I wanted to do is show you the thickness just below that polished edge. So here's the model, what we've printed. We have to get the last tooth of the arch on the model, because otherwise it'll over erupt and we'll get a an open bite. There's my blue block out. So there's the slightly opaque Essex C+. That's meant to be 1mm. It is so thin, so delicate. It's not going to do anything. And you can see how I've cut it. And when we put it on the model, just to try and show you how thin it becomes, and then we'll compare and contrast that to the 0.8 Lux Creo. So again, just trying to illustrate how much more rigid it is. It's going to act as a retainer. And with the software and the digital wax blocking out the undercut, you don't have to mess about with blue blockout or wax. So we'll try it on the model. So just trying to show you how thin it is and how there's a little void, a little gap. So if we use that blue gel, you would see the blue gel around there compared to the Lux Creo, where you can make it as close to the tooth as you want, and you can see how much thicker it is. So it's not just for aligners, it's a game changer for retainers. And yeah, I used to be pretty efficient with the pressure formed. You could quickly design it, print it. I have some Asiga printers, so print them flat. You could get one printed in about 20 minutes. Wash, post-print cure, pressure formed. You were doing a lot more mess with Lux Creo. It's all on the computer, and within 2 hours, the patient has the retainer from start to finish to fit. Now, because we can print different thicknesses. What about printing attachments? So again, they show you this video, and yeah, we've tried this for the last 20, 30 years. It doesn't work. It's too thin. You're stretching that plastic when you use pressure formed aligners. So yes, the manufacturers say how wonderful their pressure formed techniques and these wonderful pliers are. It just doesn't work. But with Lux Creo, you can design the attachment you want and print it as an integral part of the aligner. And again, that's opened up a whole new range of possibilities. So in the top, we want to extrude a tooth. So you bond a button onto the neck of the lateral. The hook is integrated. The patient simply applies the elastic, tooth's extruded. Some people have got occlusion. So if you want to do ortho-incentric relation, you do really have to keep the patient deprogrammed. So again, you can apply these cuboid shapes, which we'll come back to because you can use them for twin block, to permanently disengage, disarticulate the patient. So you've deprogrammed them to get that centric relation. And you can do bite ramps as well. Here's one. The dentist, oh, I don't use mini screws. I can't use mini screws, but I want to intrude that central. Fine, no problem. I put a hook on the labial, a hook on the palatal. That cut is actually done digitally. It's super smooth. There was no finishing of that cut. So the patient can literally load the elastic and simply insert it. And for every action, there's a reaction. So we know we want to intrude the tooth, but the reaction is to pull or push the aligner off. So we need to increase the retention. Well, that's easy with Lux Creo. You just alter the block out. And then the flip side is, well, now it's just try to click. You get a nice click when you put them in. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure if you heard that, but a satisfying click. But again, if plastic is viscoelastic, every time the patient takes it out, it's stretched, so it's going to lose its retention. But it's shape memory, so it doesn't. So it's opening up more possibilities. So as we mentioned, retention, if you've got a perio patient, obviously we used to use a lot of blue blockout. So you can alter the gap, how much the Lux Creo prints in the interproximal region by just altering the slider. Simple and effective. You can also alter how close the resin is. to the tooth. So design offset, tight 0.05 if you really want a very tight fitting. And that's the aligner shell in the software, and you can alter the occlusal thickness and all sorts of things. Very quick, very easy. This is manual. You can press the button and use AI, which we'll come to again. So this is just to show how tight you can have your aligners fitting. And those contours won't be stretched because when the patient puts them in boiling water or hot water, it rejuves. So it will always be a snap fit. Other attachments, well, like we've mentioned, blocks for doing ortho-eccentric relation. You could make a twin block. So you're going to say, oh, no, I'm going to have to make these blocks for every aligner, because you could make what can we call it? We'll have to think of some fancy name. An aligner combined with a twin block. So the patient can be having the upper anterior, lower anterior teeth aligned at the same time as correcting the sagittal discrepancy. So when you first do it, it'll take you a few minutes because you have to alter the scale, the size, the orientation, and move the block. But once you've positioned them, then the subsequent aligners, you just simply hit load pontic, and those two blocks, we'll do one on the other side, will appear automatically in the subsequent aligners. So yeah, again, it's a way of quick, simple, and effective. You're not just using the twin block effect to correct sagittal, you can make a series of aligners to align quickly and easily as well. So just fill the gap, and then yeah, we can do a separate webinar on how to go through all of this, because I've got hundreds of these, well, not hundreds, but quite a lot of these videos with all the little subtleties and nuances, what you can do. That's just the peripheral. So again, because it's twin block, I've gone for 2-3 millimeters above the gingival margin because I want it quite robust. And then you can label it. So you can label numbers, you can put the patient's initials on, you can even put the practice logo on as well. So many things you can do with it. Now, we mentioned AI. So if it's a bog standard routine aligner case, you can just click AI and it will generate the series of aligners for you. Yes, you have to pay your points, but that's fine. Where I'm going is, we've been talking about attachments. What do you do when you've got an edentulous gap? So this is just to show the AI how quick, but sometimes if you want hooks, or if you've got that edentulous gap, you want to go manual. Because you know when you're pressure formed, that bit of plastic is so flexible, it's going to snap. You need to fill it. So again, we used to use bits of silicone wax. It's a complete pain if you have a series of aligners, because each model, you have to put the silicone, chunky bit of silicone in that gap. Well, now we just put some donuts in. So in the edentulous gap, you've got the option of putting a pontic. That pontic may be solid or it may be hollow, or they call it donuts. So if you bought a 6-8 pack of donuts stood on the end, you have these round circles. Now that increases the rigidity of the aligner remarkably. And again, you can just hit the load, the pontic, and it will put that in every single aligner. And then what makes me wonder is, could you distalize teeth better? Because that's quite rigid. So if you've moved the tooth back 0.25 of a mil per aligner, that's going to give it quite a bit of force to hold it. So again, we need to revisit distalization, because from one feature, it opens up a whole new, it's the ripple effect, butterfly effect of, oh, well, we could do this, we could do that. Oh, what about doing this? So anyway, that's the donuts sequence. Like we said, we can have a tooth shape, which can be hollow, or it can be solid. So that's the donut in its printed form. Solid pontic, or there's some DCA plus resin. I've printed it too thick. It's very opaque. When you print it thinner, it's much more translucent, so the patient doesn't look like they've got extra bleach shade composite. And again, if you were distalizing with that solid pontic, the tooth isn't going to relapse back and the aligner is not going to flex. And that was just trying to show the translucency. It's not the XBL composite shade. So on that hollow, you can just see the light shining through the DCA. Compared to when I've printed it solid, there's no light getting through that. So again, the color's pretty bright, but not for everyone's taste. But I dare say it won't take long before new shades appear. Oh, vertical bowing. When you do lingual, you learn about mechanics, big time. And trying to do extraction cases with aligners, when you're trying to move that canine, big tooth, big root, and you've got that little thin bit of plastic between the second premolar and the canine, it's going to flex. So you're going to get this vertical bowing, just like you do in the lingual technique. But with Lux Creo, like we've said, we've put a pontic in there, hollow or solid. We've put the donuts in there. So now we're looking at treating patients and having a good result with bodily movement as opposed to tipping with clear aligners. Like I said before, it's totally altering a total paradigm shift, rewriting the rules. Again, just don't ask. I seem to attract crazy patients. Those deciduous A's need to come out, but of course the patient says no, and they start complaining and kicking off. So, okay, we'll just make an overdenture. So you've seen the donuts. Here's putting in hollow pontics, and we're going to print the aligner, and then we're going to put some composite resin in over the top. So we can move the canines because they're in crossbite, because they're class 3 patient, and they can still have this overdenture until they're ready to transition to having implants placed. And again, you take your time to do it once, or subsequent aligners, it's at a click of a button. It will put those 4 pontic teeth in straight away the minute you click the button. So create the margins. So yeah, load the pontic on the top right, bang, there you go. 4 pontics, just like that. magic. So not only have Lux Creo spent time on the polymers, they've also spent a lot of time on the software, and it's a big help. So just to show you, filling it with composite, making an overdenture. The limit to what you can do is really down to your imagination with this system. I was just laughing because I love Mac. I'm an Apple Mac, although I can't see my screen notes here, so I'm doing this without my notes. When you have hardware and software, as Steve Jobs would say, everything just works. That's the Lux Creo system. It just works, software with the hardware. And then it'll just have the indentations of those deciduous teeth. So, yeah, amazing get out of jail, should we call it, things you can do. Um, Again, some dentists, oh, we've got some posterior open bites. Can we transition from whatever the manufacturer is to some of yours? Can you make them so they don't cover the occlusal surface or a retainer? I mean, I don't know if any of you tried beg retainers from the past. They can be a real pain to fit. Well, if you want occlusal settling and you want a retainer to make sure your bonded retainer doesn't fail, you can do it. And you just remove this digitally. There's no messing around creating acrylic dust everywhere. It's all done digital, just like that intrusion where we cut digitally that upper incisor. Yeah, and clean up. If, for example, the assistant isn't available, you can simply use a scalpel and a nail file. It creates minimal dust, so you could do it in the surgery, is what I'm suggesting. You don't need to do it in the lab room. It's that quick and easy, not like the snowstorm you get when you use pressure formed. And that's, say, it's down to the digital polishing. So it's minimal effort. So yeah, the robots are coming in more ways than one. So this is just taken off the Lux Creo website just to show you about the AI. So if it's just a normal routine aligner case, it is literally you upload the models, go and have a coffee, come back, they're all designed for you. Just export it into LuxFlow. An hour and 10 minutes later, they're all printed. 8 minutes in the ultrasonic alcohol wash, 10 minutes in the oven to burn off the alcohol, 20 minutes in the curing unit, and then just polish them. So yeah, within 2 hours, you could give the patient 8 aligners to get them going. And I say 8, and I was going to say 8 weeks. I'm starting to play at, should we move from 0.25, 0.3 mil per aligner? Should we move to 0.5 or 0.6 mil per aligner and go for a 2-weekly change? Everything's different and fewer refinements because of the shape memory effect. So instead of getting, as in the journals, 60 to 70% of predicted tooth movement per aligner, you're now getting 80, 90, maybe more, 95%. So we need to investigate all of this. Like I keep saying, the rules need rewriting. It's totally paradigm shift. Simple as that. And yeah, I've got, where's it going to end? Well, got one of these on order, so looking forward to taking delivery. No more sick days. No more, oh, I've got a headache, I can't come in today. So yeah, won't be long. It's so quick, so simple. Yeah. So going back to Wout. Wout is sponsored by Red Bull, and we know Red Bull gives you wings and makes you fly. Well, would that do the same to your practice? Probably not. But I will know one thing, Lux Creo will. It has totally transformed the whole throughput of the practice. Everyone's happier, it's cleaner, it's faster. And I'm not even going to mention the cost saving if you use a big aligner company. And we won't mention green as well, because saving all the transport and shipping. And if you make your own, well, you're not printing all those models. And how do you dispose of those models? So with that, um, yeah, what questions have people got?
Well, Dr. Hutchinson, thank you so much for going through your thoughts on aligners and your process. We do have some questions from the audience, so I'll read them out for you.
Okay.
Um, for adding resin to the printed aligners, the resin will pretty much bond to the inside surface of the aligner, correct? What about
Yeah.
when we bond attachments? Wouldn't they get stuck to the tray or make it very hard to remove them when bonding attachments?
Um, well, I'm going to say the attachment is designed in the software and printed as part of the aligner. So the attachment, the hook, for example, is integral or integrated. It's one piece of polymer. So you don't have to bond anything to the aligner. It's all printed.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hutchinson. And then we have another question. Does Lux Creo have its own planning software? If so, how and when to order different thicknesses? What's the criteria and benefits of the thickness changes?
Mm. Um, Lux Creo, I don't know about its own software to sell, but it does do a design facility. And I know you can order your aligners from Lux Creo. So if you were interested in trying it, you could submit some STL files to Lux Creo. They would design it for you, and then they would also print them for you if you wanted. But as a standalone software to purchase to move teeth, I would say no, they don't do that.
Yeah, I'll fill in on that one as
Okay,
well, Dr.
thank
Hutchinson.
you.
You were absolutely correct. We don't currently distribute a treatment planning software of our own.
Mm,
We do have really good integration with two treatment planning softwares today. One of them is Titan Dental Design, and the other is ULab. They both output their treatment plans
mm,
in according to the specifications we ask for.
yeah,
And then from a Titan Dental Design standpoint, uh, any attachments that you design in Titan Dental Design will also get transferred over
okay,
and aligned to the resultant shell that you do in the Lux Design software.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
and then, as you said, our Lux Cloud service, we do treatment planning design as a service. So you can upload scans, pictures, prescription information. We have a team of people that will build the design to those specifications. We can provide you the the STLs, we can provide you the Lux Creo print files, and we can print them on your behalf and send them to you or your patient. So we offer a lot of different options in Lux Cloud.
I mean, that's ideal for me as doing a mentor. So if I go on holiday, I'm up the mountain on the bike, oh, we need these new aligners desperately. Well, I can just send them to Lux Creo, design them, send me the STX files, and then the girls can just put them in the printer and print them and send them out. So you've got all bases covered, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a follow-up question to the one about the resin in the teeth and the attachments. They said, I mean the button, the handle, not the hook on the aligner.
Yeah, I mean, bonding the button to the tooth to extrude it, is that correct? I'm not sure if I can see this in the chat.
It's in the Q&A.
Okay. All right, I've got chat. Q&A, okay.
What we can also, sorry, Dr. Hutchinson, I'll let you answer in a moment.
Yeah,
But
well, I'm not sure. There is a resin, wait, there is a separating medium available. So you could technically make your attachment templates in the Lux Creo, and then you just paint on a separating medium. And then the resin composite would not bond to the Lux Creo.
Yes, we have a separating resin, sorry, a separating paint-on separation layer that we'll be distributing, I think, at the end of June. And if that's what you're asking about, then that would be the solution, or to use a thermoformed template would be the other option. But look for our Lux release paint-on separation film to come in midsummer.
Okay.
So jumping to some others, can you explain more about wear time of each aligner?
I would still say you need 20 to 22 hours per day to get the physiological tooth movement. I don't believe these nighttime only 6 hour wear aligners can work physiologically. The other aspect of wear time is like I've been doing 2 weekly changes with 0.5 mm increments, and that seems to work fine. So we mentioned about the Lux, the Rejuve machine. They can pick up some staining, but when they use the Rejuve with, in the UK, we have Bracemate type thing, there is no staining. So I still think 20, 22 hours per day. Maybe we move away from 1 week to 2 weekly changes with a bigger movement per aligner. I don't know if that helps with that question. Try to cover all the options.
No, that was good. Thank you. The next one, I think you just answered as well. Do these aligners get discolored with time?
So I've had, some heavily restored, a lot of old, I would call them leaking, but the patient says they're not leaking amalgams, pick up stain. But if they use the Rejuve or freshly boiled water with a Sterident, is it Panadent in the state? Polydent. Yeah. The effervescent tablets, that removes the stain, so it's not a problem.
And so that's the reactive cleaning. We always say, since they should be putting it in hot water every day to activate the active memory that Dr. Hutchinson spoke about, you might as well put a cleaning tablet in as well. But one of the things that we also know works very well as a preventative measure is having your patients adopt an oxygen-powered mouthwash as a part of their daily hygiene habit. So introducing that and doing the rejuvenation with a Polydent tablet are the best ways to maintain crystal clear aligner over time.
I think it's playing with the psychology of the patient as well, using influence or yeah, influence rather than persuasion, because it's almost, well, you should be doing it because your teeth will move faster and more effectively. Oh, and by the way, it keeps it clean. So instead of seeing staining as a problem, use it as an excuse to make the teeth move better. Flip it, sort of thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a question here. Is there anywhere to see the system in action in the United States? And so I'll take this answer. Um, we are always willing to host people through to our headquarters in the United States in Chicago. We're in the River North neighborhood in downtown Chicago. Come on through. Of course, coordinate with us, get something on the schedule, but we're happy to give you a full hands-on demo of using the machines. And then you can look on our events page in our online presence, luxcreo.com. There you'll see upcoming trade shows that we'll be at, and we generally have at least a marketing machine and samples that you can check out.
Well, I mean, from what I've seen on YouTube, there seems to be lots of clinicians in Chicago. So that seemed to happen for them in Florida as well. So I'm thinking, oh, might have to go back to Florida. That's where I did my digital smile design with Coachman many years ago.
Indeed. The next one, for what type of tooth movement would you block out the undercut?
Okay, my knee-jerk reaction is I use the undercuts blocking out because you want the patient to be able to remove them. So if you pressure form and you didn't block out the undercut, you are not removing that pressure formed off that model. And if you do get it off the model and the patient can get it in, they won't be able to remove it. So the main thing about undercuts is for insertion and removal. But if you're doing active movements, I think you'd have extrusion, because I did one the other day where I'm bringing a tooth down and you want a channel for it to move into. So you would ensure. So the software will block out the undercut for you. And you also have a digital hot wax knife to add in extra digital wax if you feel you want more blocking out, shall we say, as well. So if it's a periodontally compromised patient, you might want a very loose, shall we say, aligner. So in that case where we had significant root resorption, the model had so much blue blockout over the tooth, so the aligner was not touching it. With this system, I would have just painted it with the mouse, so to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Hutchinson. Ethan, are we okay to continue on through some of these questions?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right. We have a question. Can you explain a little bit more about Lux Cloud, please? I can take that. Lux Cloud is our online design service. So we offer, in partnership with another company called Evident, a smorgasbord of dental appliance designs that you can access through our service. So I would encourage you, there's no fee to sign up or to start using the service. You can go up, create an account, and you can browse all of the design services that are available, from dentures to diagnostic wax up, veneers, night guards, aligners, retainers, dental models. We have a full suite of different applications that you can access and create designs for. Each design is, depending on the selections that you make, has its own cost. But as an example, you can do an AI designed night guard through our service. It's $10 per design. It's ready in about 10 minutes. So you can upload the uppers and lowers, provide some information about how you want that night guard designed. There's sliders and fields to fill out. And then once you submit it and pay for it, about 10 minutes later, it is available to download, import into LuxFlow, and send to your printer. It's a very quick and fast experience. For things like doing a full treatment plan, that takes a little more time. So you would upload the information like the scan, pantograph, images of the individual, and then you would fill out basically a big prescription form and some notes about what you want to accomplish, what outcome you want to achieve with the treatment plan. And then that would be handed off to a lab technician who would create a design, and then you would go back through kind of a back and forth in design time to reach a final design that you agree with. And once you agree with that design, you can choose for us to print it. You can choose to print some of them and have us print the balance. You can choose to have all of the digital models and print them all yourself. There's a lot of different options that are available there for how you work with that design service. And of course, if you have more questions about it, you can reach out to our sales organization. They can give you some more information and can schedule demos for you. The next question, do the differentiations in the thickness properties have any role in the biomechanics and teeth movement?
Yes. Where can I start with it? I think it's opening. I keep mentioning about torque, and working out the moment or the couple that's needed to deliver that torquing movement, which we know from a rectangular wire and a rectangular slot. With the resin, we're still looking at, is it 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 millimeter? And then once we know the force times the distance and everything, we can come out with some SOPs, standard operation protocols. And the beauty of the Lux Creo is that, well, if you just want one tooth torquing, you can make it, for example, 0.8 of a millimeter thick there, but the rest of the aligner can be 0.7 or thin on the occlusal. So you can have the comfort as well as the force where you need it. So that's the main thing I would say with the biomechanics and the thickness. We can just literally move teeth in all sorts of different directions.
Just to add on to that real quick, one of the features that we provide as part of designing the aligner shells is an option that we look at the tooth movement difference between two different stages of a treatment plan. And where tooth movement is happening, we will apply additional thickness to help ground the pushing force in those areas. So again, we have this ability, as Dr. Hutchinson was saying, to increase the amount of material near a push point or where movement is happening to make sure that that movement is bolstered with additional material, additional plastic.
And that's certainly when it comes to distalization. I think that's the big game changer, because you can have something to really push those teeth distally. Yeah.
Yeah. Next question is, what is the maximum rotation in degrees that you can do with Lux Creo?
Ooh, well, it's going to depend on the tooth, the shape of the tooth, and the thickness. So if it's a flat, like an upper central incisor, you've got plenty to push on. So you're probably going to get away with a bigger rotation movement per aligner than if you had a very rounded tooth, like a canine, where you had to have attachments on. Because the attachment's much smaller and more precise compared to a labial surface. So again, I would say it depends on the tooth, which you're moving.
Okay, two
Yeah,
more
sure.
remaining. Could we increase the velocity of the movement, taking profit of the shape memory of the resin and
Well,
increasing the wearing
yeah.
time for 2 weeks?
So I don't think we're not biohacking, so we're not using micro perforations, photobiomodulation, all of that. So I think the speed, the physiological of movement speed remains the same because that's just biology. But I think you notice a difference because you're getting 95%, I'm just saying, of predicted movement per aligner than you would with a pressure formed where you're only getting 60 to 70%. So if, for example, the tooth moves 1 millimeter and we do 4 aligners and we call it 100% for round figures, that's 4 weeks, 4 movement. If with the pressure formed, we're only getting, say, we'll call it 50%, then at the end of those 4 aligners, I've only got 50% of the movement, so I need another 2 aligners. So treatment's gone from 4 weeks with Lux Creo to 6 weeks. It's not that you're moving the teeth faster, the same biological rate applies to them both, but you're just getting more of the predicted outcome from the Lux Creo because the plastic is not being stretched. It's returned to its original shape every night. So I think that's it. The best way I come up with explaining it. Um,
I appreciate that, Dr. Hutchinson. Uh, uh, Next question. If I understood well, you are doing a combination of thermoplastic material, but still printing models?
no, I still, well, yes, I still use my Seegers and my pressure formers because I like fiddling, I like experimenting and comparing, contrasting. So that's why you saw that Essex C plus 1 millimeter compared to the zero point 0.8 Lux Creo. Because I thought, oh, I know if I make one of those and compare it, but for my clinical work, it's just moved over to Lux Creo 100%. It was, initially, well, let's just try a few. And as you get more confident, you just start ramping it up and getting more and more adventurous.
And then this last question I can go ahead and take. What planning software can give me playing with the thickness? The treatment planning software is all about doing the tooth movement. Our own design software for designing the shells is where you would play with the thickness, or you would add or remove thickness, and that's called Lux Design. We have two pieces of software we deliver with the solution, one called Lux Design, the other called Lux Flow. Lux Design is all about it's basically what Dr. Hutchinson was showing in most of his presentation. It is where you design the shells for the aligners, retainers, or EMA sleep appliances. The Lux Flow is our nesting and slicing software. That is where you take the design of the shells, and we have what we call one-click application modes, where you tell it, I'm going to print an aligner. Here's the aligner files from Lux Design. It then automatically positions them, supports them, and prepares them for slicing. You slice it, and then transfer it to the printer for printing.
I
So,
will, just for completeness,
yep.
Delta Face, a French software, because I used to use that for a bit, that would export a shell. But what I'm going to say is don't bother. Just use the LuxFlow because that exports a shell, but you still can't add bits, you can't do attachments and all of that. So just stick with LuxFlow.
So Lux Design and Lux
Sorry,
Flow.
Lux Design. Sorry,
Uh,
sorry. Yeah.
so the other thing to mention there is other design softwares that create shells. They don't know the optimizations that we put into our shells to make sure that you get an optimal fit with the outcome of printing it in DCA. So Lux Design and Lux Flow talk together. So we have an intermediary file format that goes from Lux Design to Lux Flow that contains a bunch of information necessary to accurately print those shells. And so again, you could print a shell from somebody else, but it won't have those optimizations available. So
It goes back
our
to,
recommendation is to use Lux Design.
yeah, keep it all under one umbrella, design and software. Oh, sorry, hardware and software. Yeah.
Correct.
And Dr. Hutchinson, there was one question that was posed during registration before the webinar began, and then I think we're in the clear from there. But just real quick, if you could explain, someone was wondering if this can be used with an expansion aligner system or just the traditional IPR retraction technique.
Well, you're in control. You do what you want to do. So a tooth doesn't know any difference. It's a force. You're just generating a force. So if you want to well, I mean, it depends on the word expansion. Are you simply uprighting, tipping them out? Yeah, you can do that. And I've seen those bars which you can print from left to right to add a bit of extra springiness. So it goes back to it's your imagination that is limiting what you can do with this system. Because, like I keep saying, a tooth doesn't know what's pushing it, it just knows it has to react to get equilibrium to get away from the force. So, yeah, you could expand. Yeah.
And there, just one other item for you, Dr. Hutchinson. There was a statement in the chat that said, "Thank you so much for the great webinar." And
Thanks.
I
Well,
couldn't agree more.
I was flying like route because it's like I can't see my notes. What am I going to talk about? I can't remember. So thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah, but I have to say it's just like being a complete, yeah, I just like game. I can't it's completely transform the whole practice and everything. And it's given me a lot more enjoyment because you now can, I mean, it's just the whole thing. Even if you're doing labial or lingual fixed appliances, you can very easily now hybrid. So you can do the heavy lifting with the fixed and transition easily over to liners for finishing. But actually, you can do a lot more with the aligners because of the mechanical properties, because of the shape memory, and like you mentioned about the printing, make it thicker in certain areas without adversely affecting the rest of the aligner. So you just got to dream big, basically.
Great. Well, Dr. Hutchinson, appreciate you, appreciate the presentation. Ethan, anything you want to cover off to close up?
I think I just echo your sentiment. It was an incredible webinar, incredible Q&A. The replay will happen next Monday. So if you know anybody who missed it or you even just want to watch it again because it was so great,